Coming up on 5 Minute News. Just one officer indicted in Breonna Taylor case, but not for her death. Republican inquiry into Joe Biden finds no evidence of wrongdoing. And Data says California outpaced Trump's Forest Service in wildfire prevention work. It's Thursday, September 24. I'm Anthony Davis. A Kentucky grand jury on Wednesday indicted a single former police officer for shooting into neighboring apartments, but did not move forward with charges against any officers for their role in Breonna Taylor's death. The jury announced that fired officer Brett Hankinson was charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment in connection to the police raid of Taylor's home on the night of March 13. Immediately after the announcement, people were expressing frustration that the grand jury did not do more. "Justice has not been served," tweeted Linda Sarsour of Until Freedom, a group that has pushed for changes in the case. "Rise up all across this country, everywhere. Rise up for Breonna Taylor," she said. Attorney Ben Crump, who is representing Taylor's family, tweeted that the charges involved nothing for the murder of Breonna Taylor. "This is outrageous and offensive," he said. At a news conference, State Attorney General Daniel Cameron said Hankinson and the 2 other officers who entered Taylor's apartment announced themselves before entering the apartment and did not use a no-knock warrant. According to Kentucky law, the use of force by the officers was justified to protect themselves. This justification bars us from pursuing criminal charges in Miss Breonna Taylor's death. A Republican, Cameron is the state's first black state attorney general and a protege of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has been tagged by some as his heir apparent. His was also one of 20 names on President Donald Trump's list to fill a future Supreme Court vacancy. Breonna Taylor, an emergency medical worker, was shot multiple times by officers who entered her home using a no-knock warrant during a narcotics investigation. The warrant used to search her home was connected to a suspect who did not live there, and no drugs were found inside. Protesters across the country have demanded justice for Taylor and other black people killed by police in recent months. The release date in late May of a 911 call by Taylor's boyfriend marked the beginning of days of protests fueled by her shooting and the violent death of George Floyd while in police custody in Minneapolis on May 25th. Last night, amid protests in major cities across the U.S., the Louisville Metro Police Department confirmed that 2 of their officers had been shot during the protests. An election year investigation by Senate Republicans into corruption allegations against Joseph R. Biden Jr., the Democratic presidential nominee, and his son, Hunter, involving Ukraine, found no evidence of improper influence or wrongdoing by the former vice president, bringing to a close a highly politicized inquiry its leaders had hoped would tarnish President Trump's rival. The report asserted that Hunter Biden traded off his father's name to close lucrative business deals around the world, and that his work for Burisma Holdings, a corrupt Ukrainian energy company while the former vice president was directing American policy towards Kiev, gave the appearance of a conflict of interest and alarmed some in the State Department. But the 87-page document released on Wednesday by the Senate Homeland Security Committee contained no evidence that the former vice president improperly manipulated American policy towards Ukraine or committed any other misdeed. The panel's Republican chairman, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, had made little secret of his political ambitions for his report, boasting for weeks that his findings would demonstrate Mr. Biden's unfitness for office. Instead, the result delivered on Wednesday appeared to be little more than a rehashing of unproven allegations against Mr. Biden 6 weeks before Election Day, allegations that echo a Russian disinformation campaign and have been pushed by Mr. Trump and his allies. Republican investigators found no evidence that Mr. Biden acted inappropriately, including when he joined other nations in pushing for the ouster of Ukraine's top prosecutor who was investigating Burisma. Mr. Trump's pursuit of that debunked charge is what prompted his impeachment last year, after he pressured Ukraine's leader to look into it himself. While more than half of California's forests fall under federal management, the U.S. Forest Service consistently spends fewer dollars than the state in managing those lands to reduce wildfire risks. The relative spending by federal and state forest authorities undermines Donald Trump's repeated attempts to blame deadly wildfires not on climate change, but on a failure of Democratic-led California to clear its forests of dead wood and other debris. In fact, the bulk of California's forest management falls under federal jurisdiction, with the U.S. Forest Service owning 57% of California's 33 million acres of forests. Yet for the fiscal year 2020, the agency spent $151 million treating 235,000 acres with practices like controlled burns, meant to reduce wildfire risks, according to figures provided by the service. By contrast, California's government spent $200 million on forest management work and oversaw treatment of 393,282 acres of state-run and privately held land, according to figures provided by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. The Federal Forest Service suspended its wildfire prevention efforts for 6 weeks this spring, saying it was concerned about the safety of its personnel during the coronavirus pandemic. State fire officials at the time decried the move as risky. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Please subscribe, rate and review us at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an independent production covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering unbiased, verified and truthful world news daily.